Welcome to the OEMs, Blockers and Breakthroughs podcast, brought to you by Partful. I am your host, Tanya Tran, Partful Head of Marketing. With me is my co-host, Sam Burgess, CEO of Partful. We're here to share real stories from real companies and real people to help OEMs overcome challenges and be amongst those most forward-thinking teams. Welcome to today's podcast episode. I'm really excited because this is such an amazing topic to talk about, and we've got two new guests with us here today. And before we're going into it, I'm gonna hand the stage over to Sam for a few exciting words and announcement.
Thank you, Tanya. So I'm really excited to be announcing the upcoming launch of our new platform, Partful 2.0. The new platform allows for the full automated creation of parts catalogs by the user community and our customers. The new platform will allow OEMs and teams and individuals to be in full control of their parts catalogs and allow for the creation and the management utilising their existing engineering data to allow full autonomy in the creation of this content, meaning that as and when design changes and engineering freezes occur during the design and through life support aspect, engineers and after-sales individuals will be able to continuously update and manage their content in their own time. So our platform uses a combination of automated 3D content that's generated from that original source data, the CAD data, that allows the user community to then distribute that content to their entire communities around the world and effectively monetizing that data that's otherwise or previously been locked away behind various different vaults and not being allowed to distribute accordingly. The platform makes the creating of selling parts super straightforward, from zero to part selling hero in absolutely no time. And this is going live in November. We've already got a number of customers that have signed up for the initial trial. So super excited to be announcing that today.
Amazing. Thank you, Sam. And that is a great segue into introducing our two guests today, Kristian and Rami, the two figureheads in creating this technology, this automation technology for 3D content generation. That is the kind of focal point of our product launch in November. So, Kristian, Rami, do you want to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Thank you, Tanya. I'm Kristian, the head of software engineering here at Partful. I work closely with Rami as a tech lead on a team with him to build out some of our core experience there, particularly some of the ingest and automation behind building that parts catalog.
And you've just had a recent promotion as well, so just want to share that with our audience, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Been looking forward to it for a while.
So you've celebrated by buying a shirt there, Kristian, is that what you've done?
I celebrate everything through buying a shirt,
Always with the colourful shirts. Rami?
Yeah, sure. So it's Rami Elakkad. I'm one of the product managers here. I look after mainly the EPC side of Partful, which includes from you being able to log in, to be able to browse for parts, able to check out for parts, and a little bit thereafter. I work with Kristian, as you mentioned, and together we are here to essentially conquer the world of electronics parts catalogue. That's me.
So I hope I'm not wrong to say that Partful 2.0 is going to be the world's first 3D automated electronic parts catalog platform. So I've got Kristian and Rami here today to explain how the technology works and it's built behind the scenes, how that will empower the OEM community, especially in the after-sales department, to take control of their data and being able to optimize their after-sales operations and performance in no time. So my first question to you guys, what does Partful's automated 3D content generation mean and how does that work?
Oh yeah. So what it means is we're putting the control in your hands. It's your data and you know it best. You upload that data to us, we parse it, we process it, we make it make sense and build the 3D files that you can view in the parts catalog. How does it work? As I say, upload your CAD to us. We take that through a series of steps to build out things like hotspots, animations, and make sure that it renders really nicely. And then we take your sales bill of materials so that we can take that 3D data, add in part names, add in descriptions, add in pricing. And the end of the journey isn't just that you've got a parts catalog. You can upload another sales BoM. You can change your prices, change your part numbers after that as well, to keep your customers up to date and paying the right price for your products.
Anything else to add, Rami?
I think Kristian covered it off there, being one of the lead developers on this and planning this architecture. The only thing I'll add is I think it's groundbreaking what we've done here, because it's the first time I've heard from any company I spoke to that has an automated way of capturing that data and actually seeing it in a very high quality details, enough for you to accurately identify the parts that you need and visually see the part and make sure that you're buying the part that you actually need. We've heard quite a few essentially horror stories from different personal experience and also from different clients, that the issues that the customers are having is essentially ordering the wrong thing, and that costs a lot of time and money, because then you got to call up again and say, oh, I ordered the wrong thing. Then you got to wait another few more weeks, and it does cause a lot of time inconvenience. And all the while, this is for a dealer perspective, their customers are waiting for a part for a car, and then they're saying to them, it can take a few weeks, and then going back saying, I'm so sorry, it can take more weeks. So you essentially losing that reputation. But what we've done here essentially is allowed us to be able to show accurately as possible the part that you're buying is the part you will get. With clear pricing, you know what you're getting, with efficiency. And that's what we've done here.
That's great. I think, Sam, we talked a lot about how the traditional systems and the current ways of working in aftersales create a lot of hassle, struggles, like inefficiencies from the point of ordering and fulfillment of parts, like the communication back and forth, emails and calls, just because of inquiry forms are not great for this kind of transactions. And then to the point of creating technical documentation and how much time that takes OEM teams, from design engineering being distracted from that to after sales not being able to do it effectively. How do you think our solution of Partful 2.0 is going to save OEM teams time just by implementing our solution in their operation?
Oh, I mean, it's so significant in so many ways. The days of exporting CAD files to 2D PDF line drawings for them to someone spend an inordinate amount of hours to start creating content, only to be told about when they're 50% of the way through creating a parts catalog that 30% of the drawings have been updated and it only now needs to be changed. I mean, that is just the tip of the iceberg. I think back to the technical author that we had. He was just such a super nice guy. He had the patience of a saint, and he needed it because he would just carry on and create this content and just constantly get told to start again and start again and start again, and it was infuriating. And not just in the initial build of it, but then once these parts catalogs are then released, then managing the parts catalog is super difficult without without digitization. In fact, I would say that it's impossible, because you will have around the various different corners of your own ecosystem, people will have old versions of those parts catalogs, and they will continuously refer to old versions and variants because they won't have received the updated ones or for whatever reason. So when they're putting parts orders in, it just leads to a huge amount of confusion. And if it's a part sales representatives on the other end of the phone, it's like a Sherlock Holmes adventure trying to find the right part when somebody phones up, because the reference documentation they're using is so outdated. So not only does it save a huge amount of time and increase efficiency for the OEM, but it does that for the end user, whether that be a business user or a customer end user. The ability to seamlessly identify it and then order the part is going to revolutionize the industry. It's the same way in which Amazon did for consumer products. We're creating the ability for our customers to create their own parts catalogs so that they can distribute that out to their customers and people can buy more parts. And that is effectively what we're all here for, really. So it's an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, I think, like you said earlier, just going back to like the OEMs teams having to export the CAD data into 2D line drawings and diagrams.
Yeah.
We're still, I think the core of our technology is we're using that CAD data, but in a very optimized way in order to create that content, that interactive content, right? So I think
Yeah.
our OEM community would really like to know, how does it do that? How does it use that CAD data in order to do that?
So essentially, what we do is, yeah, we still use that same CAD data that was used before, but when we ingest that, we use all of the associated data in there, pulling it apart, understanding which bits are parts, which bits are assemblies, the whole hierarchy of that model, to understand how it all fits together and label it all up correctly. Um, and all that's used in the future to animate it, to kind of explode it all out. So when you want to go in and find a part, you're not kind of just looking at a 2D drawing and saying, oh, I think it's that one. You're actually kind of digging through the whole model, pulling an engine apart to find the exact piece that you're looking for. And it's only through the CAD that we can do that. And CAD has other, it's got other bits of data associated with it as well. Things like color. Color is super important for users to see, what it is that they're buying, and that is in that CAD file. Sometimes engineers might label different parts in different colors as well, and we do cater for that. So you can render it all in grayscale if you're not using true color in your CAD. But it's massively useful to us, and it is the core data set that we use to build up that parts catalog.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to kind of share how much of the CAD vendors out there we cover within our platform as well. I think the OEM community, especially design engineers and the after sales people, would like to know.
We cover most of the CAD vendors out there, so things like SolidWorks, we handle that, and we understand that SolidWorks it has around the 70 to 80% share of the market. So a lot of companies use SolidWorks. We support CATIA, Creo, and those big. I think there's six big ones that we actually support. Siemens as well. This is one of the issues with the CAD industry, is that they constantly are evolving. There's the new versions, and it's almost a cat and mouse game where the CAD vendors will release new software, it's almost like a car being built every year. They'll have new features, they'll upgrade something. So we try and stay on top of that to be able to support those CAD files, whether they've done in 2008 or whether they've done in 2025. We keep on top of that, so we can have I think on our website we have a list of our CAD vendors that we support, but we support most of them, yes.
I'd also just add, if your CAD software can export to step files, we support that, and that's a pretty universally used file type.
That's good to know. Going back to the last previous episode with Claire and Carl with electronic parts catalog using CAD data, we know that there are gaps between the CAD data, which is an engineering based or engineering centered data format, and the after sales data format that is fit for after sales purposes. I think Claire mentioned a lot of the tools that we have built for 2.0 and are currently building for 2.0 as well, that allow for that tribal knowledge to show through. Can you explain how those tools work together with the automation technology in order to allow that efficiency for the OEM teams?
Yeah, essentially, we had to build tools in order to create this, and I think it's an issue with all OEMs in their own departments, is this synergy between design engineering, engineers, and after sales. We do see this, it's almost like a gap of knowledge between after sales and design engineers. And essentially, we build those tools to bring back that whole ecosystem together, essentially. So after sales can help in having a look at what customers are actually buying, what is the most commonly used product. They can then identify from then, actually, is there something wrong with this part? and therefore feed that back to the maybe design engineers or engineers and say, hey, we're seeing a lot of these coming out. Is there something wrong with here? And they can address that. It also addresses some of the feedback that customers, when they buy parts, they can actually see what they are using those parts for, and then it can increase that product performance, essentially, the usability. We can drive the technical authoring, and also it helps engineering. I think that's the most important thing, actually, is to optimize the manufacturing process. It helps reduce defects and streamlines that whole process from design engineering, engineering, and after sales. I suppose the question is how they do that. How can they do that themselves? Well, we've essentially opened up those lines of communication by seeing the product in a 3D environment along with the sales BoM, and then we can provide them with a report to say how accurate that data they've just uploaded is via way of a match report, and then they can use that in a way of almost like a data-driven decision to be able to use that together and work together on that.
I think going back to the CAD data as well, and what Sam said earlier around like design changes and updates. Sam have talked a lot about digital thread, and that it currently is kind of like just within the design engineering or the production team or the product team basically, and it's not extended to the after sales team, even though after sales is so important in order to understand how the products or the models are performing in the field, like out there in real life. How is it that our product can open up potential integrations with like PLMs and PDMs in order to wrap that digital thread up to make it more continuous?
I think this is the part where a centralized information is kept, and I think OEMs need to understand that they're not just selling physical products to sell to customers. They are actually in the business of data, so they need to have that data centralized, so that whether you're an after sales, whether you're a designer, whether you're an engineer, can have access to that data. So by allowing us to integrate into PLM or PDM, this allows a seamless approach where design engineers finish the CAD, they've updated the CAD, there was a revision, for example, and that gets taken into our system automatically. Then the after sales will be updating the centralized place with, actually, we've got new parts here, we can give them a price. Once that's in their system, that will feed back into our system. So we're talking here almost real-time updates of parts in this whole ecosystem. And I think that's the value in us being able to integrate, is that we provide that seamless experience into their ecosystem to help OEMs build, sell parts faster.
That goes back to our principle of building this new product, right? Because I think preserving that digital thread is always the conversation, the constant conversation in our teams. Like I hear it in the product team, I hear it in the engineering team, and we do that by using the CAD data and preserving that CAD data within our system in order to build that foundation ready, prepped for further integrations, right? Sam, how is that going to impact the collaboration between after sales and design engineering, you think? Because I think there was an example, a story that you told previously where you actually implemented a program where the design engineers have to spend a certain number of weeks within the after sales team in order to gain that synergy. But now with the enablement of our platform, how do you think that will help accelerate that collaboration?
I think there's a change management process that will occur as a result of this technology, in the same way that when CAD was first introduced into engineering organizations, that changed the way in which people worked, and we're no different to that. I think what we're offering our customers is an opportunity to capitalize on this data, data being the next industrial revolution, it's so critical to success. And what we're offering our customers is the ability to monetize that data. And in order to do that, there's going to be, as with all change, there's going to be new processes, new ways of working are going to have to be developed in order to maximize the potential of what we're offering. So when it comes to working together, I think because of the seamless flow of data that we're now providing for our customers, it's inherently going to bring after sales people and engineers together more closely, because that feed of information is going to be far more rapid and far more direct. I think as well, when engineering, chief engineers and engineering directors fully realise the importance now of some of the data that we can monetize, I think that will incentivize them in far greater ways to ensure that the drawing packs and the drawing diagrams have not just information that pertains to manufacturing, which is part of their bread and butter stuff, but actually by including the information that then pertains to the after sales environment, something that may have been neglected, and we see it all the time, data that's neglected and not put in because people just think, what's the point? That has now changed. So I think it's going to bring people together, this technology, and then when when the benefits realizations really start to come in, that is when we will see a real sort of turbocharged relationship within these engineering and manufacturing organizations. It's thinking back to my days, this would have been, it's part of the reason we, Partful started, was this dream. I have a dream, the dream of this way of working. So yeah,
That's great. I think that brings me to my last question, and that's to all three of you. So I think Sam will be able to speak to the leadership, like the business leadership. Kristian, Rami will be able to speak to the engineering and after sales team and what they need to do. So Partful 2.0 is amazing. How do OEMs prepare themselves to get on board? What do they need to do?
first of all, speak to us. That's going to be that's definitely a first point. I think for senior leadership team members, it's about realizing the potential. And there's a customer that we're working with at the moment. The percentage of spare parts they get through their after sales environment it stands at about 2 or 3% at the moment. And what we potentially can offer those guys is an uplift in the revenue from their spares component to something like somewhere between 30 and 50%. We're expecting it to be on the higher side because this particular industry has a history of high failure rate. So they're going to be the higher echelon of spares revenue potential. And when you start talking around numbers like that, then it becomes a no-brainer. It would be crazy not to take this up. So I would say, to any senior leadership team member, really think about, what your targets are, where, what you want to achieve as a business. And you are probably very more than likely sat on an absolute gold mine of revenue that you've just not been able to access. Without building anything else, without doing much more within your business, you're going to be sat on a gold mine. And what we're offering is the ability to open that gold mine through digitization. And that for anyone in a senior leadership team position is going to be super exciting.
So, Rami, how do OEMs how do they prepare their data and their operations in order to maximize our technology?
I think after what Sam said, once they make a decision, actually we are going to try and see this in a visual format to help us bring that product to life. I think there'll be a twofold kind of way that we need. First is decide what is the objectives of the company, what are they trying to do. So I think by defining that, the design engineers, the after sales will all be on the same line, the understanding. I mean, I did speak to one of our customers. The after sales didn't even know that design engineers were actually in the same building. They just didn't know they were not one floor above. They just didn't know that. So I think it just goes to show that line of that communication and understanding, putting those three teams together, whether, for example, you have one representative from each team meet up on a regular basis or something like that to help not just establish team knowledge, but actually open those lines of communication. And the second one is all to do with the data, essentially having a uniform approach to how data gets transmitted, maybe internally and externally, because we've seen in some of our customers, the after sales will be using a different way of formats to send us information than engineers would, and then even design engineers will use a different format. So it's almost like they're all siloed and they all have their own individual ways of communicating. So I think by having almost a synergy of documentation together of how they communicate with each other, how they communicate externally, will help us access that data and unlock that potential that Sam was referring to before.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. I think this first time I've ever heard the after sales team didn't know that the engineering team is just literally the floor above.
Yeah, it's because of this problem, isn't it? It's because they're running a department and all they know it's after sales. You know, they sometimes they might not even speak to the design engineers. They'll pass information back to engineers, and that stops there. They don't really follow it up, or whatever process they have in place doesn't allow them to do that. But essentially, yeah, that was the case for this customer. Yeah,
That is so bad. So yeah, I think Sam and Rami have just answered my question around what do OEMs need to do to be ready for a maximized automated content generation results with Partful. So now is your turn really. The stage is yours.
I think ultimately for us, the quality of the output is really affected most by the quality of the data that's input into the system. For us, like making sure that the CAD file that you upload to us is free from things like floating parts. If you want to add colors, that those are added in, that your part names, your part numbers are all kind of set up in the right way, and you understand what's being uploaded. The better you've done that, the better you've sanitized your own data, the better the output that we will produce from that. As I said right at the beginning, the control really is in your hands with this product, which is super, super powerful.
Yeah, I think to me it sounds like a full business wide operation, right? It's from the top down, it's communication, it's making sure that all departments are clear of the goals and the objectives and heading towards a common destination, a common goal. It's making sure that the communications flow and that all departments are not siloed but work together effectively, and make sure that the data is accessible to all departments as necessary. And I think by allowing that kind of fluid and smooth communication and collaboration, the data will then be in the right format, right? So if the engineering team know that the after sales team will need data in order to maximize their performance, that issues of like floating parts or data is not sanitized will be in the forefront of their mind when they design the products. And it just saves so much time for all teams involved. And I think if you're struggling with, your after sales and the performance of your after sales and that siloed departments, I think Partful is here to solve those issues and take away those pains for you as well. So you hear it from me. Partful 2.0 is coming out in November. We are now open for early access for our Partful 2.0 platform. Information is available on our Partful.io website, so do go on there and sign up. It's only limited number of slots, so we're looking for forward-thinking, fast-moving OEMs to join us, and we're really excited to have you on this journey of shaping the future of manufacturing after sales. And thank you, Sam, Kristian, and Rami, for a good conversation about our platform today. And I've been so excited to share technology behind this and the team behind this. So thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Great stuff. Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.